Good morning, the time is almost 6:10 in the morning, and we may just about to get filled on the Aussie dollar CAD 5 range head and shoulders. And what I want to do is just run through why I'm looking at a potential head and shoulders here. It isn't actually the best looking head and shoulders, though it is still valid for me. But what I need to do is run through the higher time frame analysis and just go through why I'm looking at head and shoulders here. So what I'm just going to do is draw it out here first, because if I get filled I want to make sure that my stops and targets are in the right place. So we've had a move lower for the left shoulder, we came down for the head. This would be the right shoulder. Now quite importantly, but importantly, we did not put in a new high here. Then we pull down for the right shoulder, excuse me, and then up here we have now made a violation, and we are once again coming back down to this level. So this is a horizontal neckline, and if you look down here you can see that we've got on the right shoulder some rejection candles when we went up to make that violation. And all this is I'm just looking at where my entry could be. So I'll put a trend line, there we go, I'll put a trend line in here, and right, we've been filled there. So what does that give me in terms of risk? 11 pips. Okay, let's make it a bit more, 12, there we go. Right, so there's the head and shoulders, but why am I looking at this particular level? Because these things happen all the time, especially on the 5 range like this. So to get a good understanding we need to go out to the higher time frame, and really what we need to do is there was a selling opportunity earlier this week on the 4 hourly, and if we just put a trend line in here, you can see that at this area here was a selling opportunity. I didn't sell, I wasn't happy with the setup, and since then we broke to the upside. One of the reasons I wasn't happy with the setup is if we zoom out, we actually have here a very deep Gartley pattern completing down here, and since I was waiting to see what was happening with that trend line, you can see that we could, if this pattern does complete, start making our way up. And certainly since we've broken this trend line, I'm only really now looking at long opportunities. So if we drop down to the 240, you can actually see, if I remove these VS1 levels, that we're now coming up to this structure level just here, which just so happens to come in at a psychological number 9500. And if we go then to the 60-minute time frame, okay, what I'm going to have to do here is delete everything off. Okay, let's just talk through what has happened here. We've had quite a nice move up. We had news out yesterday that caused this big spike. We've seen a couple of candles retrace. We then saw a bullish candle. This in itself is a pattern where you see bullish move followed by 2 or 3 candles in the opposite direction, and then you see a bullish move again. And that's exactly what's just happened now. We saw a move here, we've seen 4 candles this way, and then boom, another move higher. And guess what we're doing again? Exactly the same thing again. A move higher and then retracement, and then I'm expecting a move higher up to at least this level. And so I forget the name of these particular patterns, not that it's important, but it's important that you understand the candle formations and the patterns. And so at the moment I'm looking at bullish opportunities here, and so I know that I can look for a move up to this 9500 level just up here. It does mean that we have to battle our way through this big spike and then go on to make a new high, but I do believe that that's where we can end up. Whether we end up turning now and going up there, I'm not too sure, but we have had this momentum move higher. And typically when we see a nice not so much a momentum move but a directional move, and then we see consolidation, we do tend to see that pop to the upside as we tend to continue it. And price is actually telling me that at this stage. So if we go back to the 5 range, this is why I've looked at this as being a potential head and shoulders. And even if you don't take this as a head and shoulders, you can still look at price action and say that we made a new low here. We only just made a new low. Then what we did is we came back up to retest. We failed to put in a new high. We came back down. Look at where we came. We did not put in a new low, and then we put in a violation to the top. Okay, so even if you don't look at this as a potential head and shoulders, it's still a potential rotation. So I'm looking at a pullback to here. I would prefer not to see this level broken, because that would mean that this technically is no longer a violation. We would just get a violation down here. So I would now like to see a move to the upside, and that would put us in trend. So a lot of information there. That's why I have my stop down here, just to give me a bit of breathing room here. And so that means in terms of risk then, we're looking at this much. And I've not risked a great deal on this trade. Not that a great deal is needed, but because the head and shoulders, we don't have this clear run, which is what I really like to see on the head and shoulders. It isn't as good as I'd like. I've had to use or gain more confirmation from other areas, like the candlesticks, like the fact that we're consolidating at the moment. And so with this being a smaller trade, I can be a little bit more aggressive with it. And when I say smaller trade, I mean in terms of the amount that I'm risking. So 13 pips of risk here for 40, so 3.5 to 1, something like that. You know, yeah, it's coming in down at the bottom there, isn't it? Okay, no, I'm quite happy with that. And there we go, that's the trade. I'll set an alarm for up here, and if we do make a new high here, putting us in trend, I may be able to reduce the risk down on this trade. But there we go, we'll come back and see the outcome of this trade. And we're back, final part of the video, and as you can see, the trade lost. How dare the Aussie dollar CAD head and shoulders lose? There we go, whopping minus 13 pips on that trade.